Thank you, New York. It's humbling to be speaking to you as mayor.
Daredevil Born Again has dropped the third episode of its first season, and if you're watching this video, I'm assuming you've either already seen it or you've been keeping up with the series, which is currently airing every Tuesday on Disney+. In this video, I'll be diving deep into episode 3, unpacking all the hidden details, Easter eggs, references, and subtle symbolism you might have overlooked. Be warned, this breakdown is packed with spoilers, so proceed with caution. The series continues to establish a bold new status quo for New York City, where Wilson Fisk's election as mayor has heightened tensions between the police and vigilantes. In the episode so far, Matt Murdock has resolved to hang up his Daredevil mask for good after the devastating murder of Foggy Nelson and his own near-fatal confrontation with Bullseye. Despite stepping away from vigilantism, Murdock remains committed to making a difference as a lawyer. His latest case? Defending Hector Ayala, also known as White Tiger, who stands accused of killing a cop. The episode opens with Matt Murdock visiting Hector Ayala in his prison cell, where Hector delivers a heartfelt monologue about his childhood home in Puerto Rico.
The most beautiful place on earth.
A nod to the real-life birthplace of his actor, Ángel de los Reyes. Tragically, De Los Reyes passed away from cancer in Los Angeles on December 24, 2023, shortly after wrapping his role in Daredevil, Born Again.
The palm trees and the cookie.
As Hector shares his wistful memory of the beach in Luquillo, Puerto Rico, with the coqui frog singing, his tone and the content of his words suggest a deep sense of nostalgia and longing. He describes the beach as his favorite place and the frog singing as a symbol of paradise, which contrasts sharply with his current reality, being confined in prison, facing an uncertain future, and awaiting trial. You will notice that in this scene, Hector is positioned on the far right side of the frame, emphasizing the emptiness and loneliness he feels inside. The memory of the beach isn't just a casual recollection, it's a poignant escape for him, a mental refuge from the harshness of his imprisonment. This nostalgia also foreshadows his impending trial and, tragically, his death later in the episode. In the original Daredevil series, Matt Murdock often confesses his sins to a priest, but in this scene, the roles reverse, with Hector Ayala confessing his vulnerabilities to Matt, who listens and offers hope. Notably, in Matt's confession scenes and tight framing in the confessional booth isolates him, reflecting his internal struggle and creating an intimate, claustrophobic atmosphere. Similarly, Hector's medium close-up in prison, with Matt blurred in the background and bars confining him, mirrors this isolation, emphasizing a private, soul-bearing moment despite the public setting. Next, we see Fisk eating an omelette served to him by someone, facing his mirrored reflection, a stark shift from his solitary, hands-on omelette ritual in the Netflix original series. Once a symbol of control and isolation, the omelette now reflects his new life as a delegating power, pressed for time, and split between public facade and inner brutality. The scene shifts to Fisk and Vanessa at a grand dining table, the camera framing them with a wide shot that emphasizes the gaping distance between them, both literal and emotional, a visual echo of their fraying relationship.
I could wash 200 million through that sale.
When Vanessa talks about a painting that's now up for auction, Fisk mentions that he is
Reaching for higher goals.
contrasting to their past intimacy and underscoring Fisk's shift into a cold, political, and power sphere. Mid-scene, an aide interrupts with news of gang members clashing, hijacking, and killing each other. Vanessa mentions that
They're misbehaving because there's no one at the head of the table.
but Fisk, dismissive, mutters,
They're rats. Let them kill each other.
Their opposing takes, Fisk craving chaos, Vanessa clinging to order, play out visually in this distance, painting Fisk as a king, isolated by his own design, now rejected in politics and irrelevant on the streets, a man losing grip on both worlds. However, it's worth noting that Fisk's choice to embrace chaos is deliberate, hinting at a calculated plan that unfolds later in the episode. A close-up of Fisk's bloodied, blistered knuckles transitions smoothly to Matt Murdock's equally battered hands as he washes them, a visual parallel hinting at an impending reckoning for both. Despite their differences, both series often highlight their shared traits, two men entwined with chaos, and this scene sharply captures that duality. When Cherry comes to take Nikki Torres to court to serve as Murdock and Kirsten's star witness in the Ayala trial, graffiti of Punisher's skull logo can be seen on a nearby wall with the word "Triggered." This was likely done by the supervillain artist known as Muse. In the comics, Muse is a fucking serial killer who revels in crafting paintings inspired by vigilantes like the Punisher and Daredevil, using their violent legacies as fuel for his macabre creations. Here, the skull and taunting word likely mock Frank Castle's relentless vengeance, a signature move from a psychopath who paints with blood and remains of his victims. Alternatively, this is hinting at how certain groups of people on the streets have adopted vigilante identities, embracing the Punisher's symbol for their own ends. Moreover, in the courtroom, the camera pans to a police officer with a Punisher tattoo on his neck, featuring a flag design, a detail mirroring real-life trends where law enforcement has adopted the Punisher logo, often blending it with the American flag or Blue Lives Matter imagery to symbolize solidarity and a controversial vigilante mindset.
I'm told you have a black eye.
In the court, when asking Officer Powell about his black eye, he shares that
But the best cure for a black eye is fast hands.
an old boxing phrase he likely heard from his father Jack Murdoch, who was a professional boxer before he was murdered when Matt was still a child.
We live with my sister and my niece.
It's revealed that Hector Ayala and his wife had been living with his sister and niece. In the comics, Angela Del Toro, Hector's niece, becomes the second White Tiger, inheriting the mystical amulet from her uncle following his death. Subsequently, Hector's sister Ava Ayala assumes the mantle as the third White Tiger, taking up the amulet after Angela is corrupted by the ninja clan known as the Hand. The current mention of these characters in Daredevil, Born Again suggests that, with Hector's death, the MCU has laid the groundwork for Angela and Ava to emerge as successors to the White Tiger legacy in future episodes. And, given the context, the young girl in this scene is most likely Angela herself. To save Hector from prison,
Are you the vigilante known as the White Tiger?
Matt Murdock risks it all by revealing Hector's White Tiger identity in court. Though this bold move ultimately succeeds, it's a reckless gamble.
You have the nerve to stand up and make a mockery of Michael.
The judge grows furious, suspecting Matt may have lied or misled the court by hiding the mask's vigilante significance or relevance, breaching courtroom integrity, potentially skewing the jury, and exposing Hector's secret identity, heightening safety risks. Matt's decision, made without Hector's consent, betrays his client's trust and endangers him under Fisk's citywide vigilante crackdown, while also alerting Hector's street enemies. Tragically, this plays out as foreseen, leading to Hector's murder later in the episode, but during Matt's argument speaking to Hector's character, he makes sure that the jury understands that
Ask doesn't make the man.
this is a classic sentiment that's not unlike the lessons Spider-Man learns in Homecoming, as well as the phrase
Anyone can wear the mask.
in the Spider-Verse movies. The mask is not what matters, it's about the person underneath and the good they choose to represent regardless of what they're wearing. Next, a bus stop ad can be briefly seen for Pingo Doce, the soda made with guarana, first seen in 2008's Incredible Hulk. This was the same soda that got contaminated with Bruce Banner's blood that Stan Lee drank during his cameo.
You can't ever put that suit back on.
As Matt revisits Hector in his cell, Hector's testimony reveals the profound meaning behind being White Tiger.
It's who I am.
This astute narrative decision by the writers highlights Matt's lingering faith in the legal system, signaling his reluctance to reclaim his Daredevil identity just yet. Later, Matt enters the courtroom for Hector Ayala's final trial in a sequence rich with symbolic visuals. The first shot frames Matt alone, the courtroom's pews and high windows bathed in soft, ethereal light, resembling a church, a nod to Matt's deep Catholic faith. As he stands at the front, gazing forward, his posture reverent as if in prayer. Soft choir voices can be heard in the background, emphasizing his belief in justice, mirroring his spiritual convictions. The camera then cuts to Matt seated, his hands fidgeting with a broken horn from his Daredevil mask, a subtle gesture reflecting his inner conflict and the lingering pull of his vigilante identity. A striking transition follows, an upside-down shot of the street, revealing rooftops bathed in twilight, a callback to Matt's nights as Daredevil patrolling from above, symbolizing his dual life. The scene shifts back to the courtroom, now populated with Hector, witnesses, and the legal team. One of the reports in favor of White Tiger comes from
Officer Morales.
Despite being a common last name, it's worth noting that Miles Morales' father is a cop in his alternate universe. As confirmed by 2017's Spider-Man: Homecoming, Jefferson legally changed his name to Morales in recent comics. Following the court victory, Matt shares a bottle of O'Melvini's with Heather, a tradition he once had with Foggy whenever they'd win a case. This gesture underscores Matt's belief that this win honors his friend Foggy too. Raising their glasses, Heather says,
May God hold them all in the hollow of his hand.
a line that echoes the episode's title. Rooted in biblical imagery, where God's hand cradles and protects, the phrase is like a prayer for peace for Foggy's soul and for Hector, whose life tragically ends soon after. Fisk tells BB Uric,
Juries get it wrong. I should know.
this comment speaks to his own legal troubles and criminal history, suggesting that he was able to avoid prolonged jail time through appeals in the aftermath of Daredevil series.
The murderer is allowed to roam the streets.
Fisk is furious over his inability to control vigilantes through legal means. He resorts to manipulation, using BB Uric to sway public opinion. During a speech, Fisk condemns vigilantes like Hector, branding those who wear masks as cowards. Through the scene's subtext, it becomes clear that Fisk likely orchestrated Hector's assassination, though this is never explicitly shown. Intercut with Fisk's speech, we see Hector, now a free man, sitting in silence in meditative posture. The visual composition of this moment carries strong religious symbolism, foreshadowing his fate. Behind him, a cross and a circle form a striking backdrop. The cross representing sacrifice and redemption, and the circle, a symbol of eternity and divine completeness, combine to create an image reminiscent of religious iconography, framing Hector as a saintly or martyr-like figure. The warm glow from the two lamps and his white attire also suggest purity, sacrifice, and anonymity, common themes in martyrdom. It's a moment of self-preparation mirroring a martyr making peace with their destiny before the end. Later, as White Tiger patrols the streets, he is suddenly shot by an unknown assailant. The shooter wears black, emblazoned with the Punisher's iconic white skull logo, making it appear as though Frank Castle himself is responsible. However, the episode already established that certain corrupt cops bear a similar skull emblem, a detail that hints Hector's killer may not be the real Punisher, but rather someone impersonating him, possibly foreshadowing Castle's eventual introduction in the series. Hector's tragic fate closely mirrors his comic book counterpart. In the source material, he was found guilty during his trial and, in a desperate attempt to escape, was shot just before evidence proving his innocence surfaced. In the post-credit scene, the distant croaking of coqui frogs, a sound Hector associated with paradise, plays softly. This moment serves as a poignant artistic choice rather than a literal indication of an afterlife. The song suggests that Hector's suffering has ended and that, in some way,
You're gonna see that beach again, Hector.
his spirit has returned to the place he loved most. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.